So when I'm not watching truly compelling TV shows like Unsolved Mysteries or Babylon 5, I'm trying to write and edit my upcoming review of the Resident Evil 3 remake. Until then, I figured I'd put out a little essay about some thoughts I've had lately, which originated about 3 years ago when I first signed up for PlayStation Plus. I've been using the service on and off since then, and had a lot of fun with some of the games, but the vast majority haven't really hit home with me. So to start off, this video is not me complaining about the value for money prospects of paying for PlayStation Plus. Every month you get 2 to 4 games for free, valuing several times the price of admission. So even if you get some games that don't interest you, odds are that you will at least break even with PlayStation Plus, value-wise. That's why it's entitled, My Problem with PlayStation Plus. I recognize that this is an issue for a lot of people, except for those who feel more anxious when faced with time-limited decisions. So, if at any point you feel like typing a beaverish rebuttal into the comments section, I refer you back to the former statement. PlayStation Plus seems like great value for money, and like I said, it kind of is. So why am I then hesitant to recommend it? Well, there's a few reasons. First off, PlayStation Plus makes my anxiety flare up, man. Every month, you get a few new games, and on average, at least one of these is going to pique your interest. When you sign up, depending on your payment plan, you have at least a full month of access to the service, with instant access to that month's selection of new games, as well as your existing library of previously collected PlayStation Plus games. You can opt in and out as much as you want, but if you pay for a full year, you pay a lower rate for every month, compared to if you pay 12 monthly fees a year. If you're clever about it, or if you simply wait a little bit before jumping into this month's selection of games, you can manage to scoop up 2 months worth of games, making the value for money prospect even greater if you've just bought a single month of access. But this is where the issue appears for me. Say I want to snap up a game like Final Fantasy VII Remake, which I've just seen is on PlayStation Plus, and I'm not currently subscribed to the service. Well, it's great value for money to grab it on PlayStation Plus, but this is a game that is over 30 hours long. Between this game and regular real-life commitments, I might not have time to play this game all the way through in 1 month. Maybe not even 2 or 3 months if I'm especially busy or just not in the mood for it. That means I'm now under a time limit, and I have to buy it now if I want this kind of discount, because if I start my PlayStation Plus subscription some other month, I will never be able to get it from there again, and will have to resort to buying a physical copy or buying it on the PlayStation Store for what will most likely be a considerably higher price, even if it's on sale. If I want to get the most out of this service, value-wise, I really ought to play this game through within a 4-week time span, unless I know for sure that there's going to be something interesting coming up by the time I would pay for the next PlayStation Plus subscription. And there's no way I can possibly know this until shortly before the end of the month. And in that case, I would be faced with the same time pressure for another month, perpetuating the cycle. Unless I'm somehow okay with putting the game away for months, checking in every now and then to possibly jump back into the service and regain access to my PlayStation Plus library, which for a game like Final Fantasy VII Remake isn't likely, as it's a more dedicated experience. And that's the thing, this may be easier or harder to deal with depending on what kind of game it is in terms of whether or not you're interested in it, how long it takes to complete, and if it's a game that demands several long sittings to get the most out of it. Compare this to if I just bought the game on sale. Well, I would start playing the game whenever I want and with no time limit imposed on me, but value for money wise, it's just more expensive to do so. And that brings me to my second point. I don't know what kind of games are going to be showing up on this service a month from now. And the selection is very varied and doesn't appeal to every taste. There's anything from puzzle games to racing games, big blown RPGs, blockbuster action-adventure games, tiny indie darlings, odd VR games, interactive story games, adventure games, shooters, platformers, Souls-likes, beat-em-ups, and multiplayer games. It's good to try out new things every now and then, but it's not just the variety in genres. some of which will never really interest me, is the variety and quality as well. Some of these games are pretty mediocre by the standards of their respective genres. Multiplayer games are well suited for PlayStation Plus, seeing as how you have to have it to have multiplayer in the first place, unless of course it's free to play. So it has that going for it, but that leads me to my next point. I don't like the idea of having to pay Sony for online multiplayer. I'm already paying for an internet service provider. Why am I paying a second monthly subscription just to play a game online? Yes, of course there are costs for developers when it comes to server management, but it seems unfair to me that the customer should have to eat that cost when they don't have to on PC, short of paying for an MMORPG or falling into the microtransaction loot box trap. You could argue, well, you get all these free games, surely that's most of what you're paying for. The online component is just the icing on top. But I don't think that's the case for most people who play online multiplayer games. They focus more on playing one or maybe two online games for months or years without ever touching any other game. That isn't meant disparagingly either. They just oftentimes have a relationship with certain online games that is similar to people's interests in sports. And these games are usually bought full price to begin with, so they can get into the online community early on, like your Call of Duty or Battlefield. So the value for money in their case seems pretty low, as they're not the kinds of people who would even want to touch a game like Outlast 2, Iconoclasts, or Burly Men at Sea?
And you might ask yourself,
Kribby, why are you making such a big deal out of this? Why even post a video? So I can feel like I got more value out of my PlayStation Plus subscription. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I recently signed up for PlayStation Plus again to get my hands on Control Ultimate Edition, only to find out that I was just a bit too late to do so, and that it's gone from the service. Thankfully, Final Fantasy VII Remake is there, and I'm enjoying my time with it immensely, aside from the repetitive side quests, of course. But looking back at how many unfinished or untouched PlayStation Plus games I have in my library, and the time-sensitive nature of the service, I can't help but feel a special kind of dread, even worse than that of my Steam library. Okay, maybe it's not as bad as my Steam library. That thing feels like it's about to burst from forgotten Humble Bundle deals and seasonal flash sales. Yeah, in the case of Steam, I may need to do some KonMari here pretty soon. Thank God for that hidden games tab. I honestly couldn't begin to keep track of this stuff otherwise. But at least my Steam library isn't dangling a stopwatch in front of me and using FOMO to drag me back to a particular game. Obviously, it's not really a worthwhile complaint that there's too many good things to enjoy and too little time to do so. Or is it? Shit. There's not enough time. There's never enough time. But it does bear mentioning that most human minds are just too limited to retain this much information and to keep track of this many things. At least mine is.